Well, welcome back. It's good to have you. This is Couch Time with Dr. Tich. I hope you've invited somebody to come and join you and watch this, and you've shared the link for yesterday's session, today's session. We're talking about how to invest, God's model of investment, how to increase your wealth, how to get to a place where the Bible says you shall be a lender and not a borrower. You shall lend to many nations and you shall not borrow. God wants you to be a source of income for others, to be a blessing to others. And that's what we've been talking about. And this session really will be a blessing to you. So let's continue. We've got Mr. Pinka Savata, a money market, money investment, money manager, wealth manager, expert with a great history in the Development Bank of South Africa, and has handled many other portfolios in his tenure as a money expert. Welcome back, Mr. Savata. Please continue. We're talking about best platforms to invest, how to manage your money, how to look at the cash flows and make sure they increase. Continue.
And now on the best platforms. The best platforms, this question, we have to address it with some critical thinking, because why I'm saying that, most people, when they ask this question about what are the best platforms to invest in, I would say it's a very dangerous question to ask in the presence of sharks. What I mean by that is that it tells me you have not done your homework, you have not done your research to have a general understanding of platforms. And it's usually coming from a perspective of somebody who has had a meeting with the people in Forex, was selling Forex. Because the platforms, you have to ask the question, who created the platform, for whose beneficiary purpose? Mm-hmm. Once you start asking that, that's when you realize that, which platform will I get into? If you cannot establish who created the platform, don't get into it. There are many scams of people doing these platforms. But let me break it down and explain what these platforms are for investing. They are an exchange. Yeah. That's what platforms are. When people talk about platforms in investment, they're talking about the exchange. To give some history, in the olden days, before our computers were our best friends, people would go to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, actually raise hands and exchange shares. That's where the word exchange comes from. That was where people were buying and selling shares. So it's called an exchange because they were exchanging shares. Shares being pieces of a business. One share might represent 1 millionth piece of a share, or 1% of the company in that one share. So if I now want to sell it, somebody has to buy it. And that process is called an exchange. Mm-hmm. So now that we are trading using our computers, the platform is a software where we do that exchange of shares. Mm-hmm. That's what an investment platform is. And you have these with your banks, all the top 4 banks in South Africa. If you ever check an account with them, there is a part in their website where you can even practice investing, practice buying those shares in what we call a dummy platform. So the platform is actually an exchange. And you have to understand what is being exchanged there. Are you exchanging shares? Are you exchanging bonds? Are you exchanging Forex? All those things happen on this software, which is the platform. That's where it's coming. But the key thing is do your due diligence. Most of these are not regulated. And more so, if you find a platform which is not linked to your bank and it's from a foreign country and people are busy harassing you on the phone so that you can invest with them through that platform, you are being scammed. Your red flags should start flying. Go and deal with a credible source, because once you put your money in there, it's not easy to get it back, because the intention, the whole model of these scammers is for you to put the money in and the discussion ends. They are gone with your money. You are a sorry case. That's the key part. And there are laws governing these platforms. You cannot just stand up and go to the JSE exchange and try to buy shares. It's done through intermediaries, which are the banks. You cannot do it directly, and there are laws governing those markets. It's a monopoly. There are very few people with licenses to do that trading. So if you are an investor, it's not a decision point whether you will go through the exchanges or not. It's a given. You just have to factor it in as your cost of doing business. So that's the part on the platforms I wanted to share there, but I'll discuss them a little bit more when we come to the Forex, where the schemes are being done.
Okay. No, brilliant. That's very valid information, because so many people are getting caught up in scams, trying to get rich, trying to get wealthy. Somebody promises them heaven on earth. They say, follow this, join this WhatsApp group. I mean, all kinds of scams have come. And I'm always amazed how people actually fall for the different scams. I'm always amazed that people don't do their due diligence. They want to just get something quickly, get something for nothing, or get this big return on a little investment. And it's just not a kingdom model. It's not the right thing to do. But anyway, let's go to money markets. Let's talk about that briefly and give us your input on that.
This one is very interesting. Money markets are very, very interesting, and people have to get the gist of the money markets and what's going on there. Because the word money market is always thrown in there so that people don't fully understand. And it's not, most people, when they say they're in the money market, they are not actually in the real money market. They are in a derivative, which their bank tells them it's a money market. Yes, it mirrors what's happening in the real money market. The interest rates are almost the same, but it's not the exact thing. But that's not material, because most people with their limited cash, they cannot really go and play in the money market. So it's correct to play in the space which they call the money market. What I actually call it is the branding by the banks to give you this thing which they call the money markets. And let's look at it. I will explain till the end what my take is on it, but I want to give an understanding. The selling perspective, the pitch which people get given about the money markets, is that there is a guaranteed return. And the guaranteed return is more than the standard savings rate which you get in your bank. All true, all fine up to there. Mm-hmm. But what is it actually, this money market? It's a higher grade of a savings account. That's what it is. It's just a savings account given a glorified name. Like at school you do standard maths and higher grade maths. That's what it is. The whole concept, if you understand what a savings account is doing, the money market is the same thing with a little bit better interest. So It's a savings account. It's not an investment. That's where you park your money for an activity which is coming, and you want that money safe instead of putting it under your bed or instead of putting it in a savings account. That's where you put your money market. So understand the purpose of the money market. It's a parking lot where you park your money. You save it there for some time, then you use it for an activity which you have planned or for your future plans. But it's not an investment. That's not where you get rich by putting money. That's the key part.
Gotcha.
And also we have to understand what we call counterpart risk. Sorry for this one, I had to throw in some terminology, but I will unpack it.
Yep.
You are looking at you have to understand the possibility of the other party failing to honor their contractual duty. If we have a contractual duty that you promised me, you guaranteed me these returns, if you fail to honor those returns, I won't be getting that promised return or even my money back. That's what I meant by counterparty risk. So there is a risk that this person who promised you the money market or whatever savings returns might fail to do it. And also people miss the point where they put their money in the bank and they think it's a guaranteed thing that they will get it back. If the bank fails, you aren't getting all of it back. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand that there is a risk to this thing of savings account and money markets. It's not as people are usually sold that it's guaranteed you get money back. There are some people who have painful experiences on this. Recently we had VPS. People deposited lots of money in there. Once you start depositing more than 100,000 in a bank account and leaving it there sitting, you are exposed, because if the bank fails, you will get at most about 100 or less. Mm-hmm. So this is the risk which one has to look at when the other party fails to honor their commitment. But also for me as an investor, and if I'm coaching or advising somebody on this, I'll tell them to limit their money which they put in the money markets and put it for the right purpose. You are packing it for a reason. Also, when people do these money markets, I've observed from a distance and found something which is really not right. That's where people abdicate their they leave their responsibility of thinking to somebody else. And they start trusting their money into other people's hands. The person goes there, is given a contract. He signs off. He's given 6 pages by a consultant who doesn't understand what's in those 6 pages. Just says, no, you just have to sign here at the bottom. As I said, the guaranteed interest rate is that. And you are busy signing off on all these bottom pages and handing it off. That's dangerous, guys. That's why I'm saying when you get into the investment game, bring your lawyer along to the game. Because all you have just signed there is to agree that if your money is more than 150,000 or what, if there is a run to the bank, you might lose all of it and return this. You signed. You were busy signing all those things. All the risk was being shifted to you and you were busy signing. So it's not as easy as they want to portray it to you and for you to sign it off. Just imagine if you were to take forms to the bank and tell the bank that, please sign at the bottom here in all these pages. They will tell you that we are taking this document to our legal team. They wouldn't sign it straight away. So people just get themselves into mess. And just to close up on this money market issues, money markets, you have to understand the interest rate. That's the key thing. Because the whole game of debt, most people are in the game of debt, and like the 95% people who have challenges with money, they're in the capitalist web. I call it a spider web of the capitalist, where the whole thing is debt driven. And it's debt driven and you don't understand interest rate. If you don't master interest rate and you go and play in the game where interest rate is key, you will sink. And the last part which I mentioned there, that you have to understand the real return. Most people will get into this money market, be given interest rates which they seem happy with, but when you add inflation to whatever their interest rate, you find their interest rate is less than inflation. So from the word get-go, you have been sold a loss and you signed on the loss, you shook hands and you said, nice doing business with this person, when they just gave you a loss and you were happy with it. Lack of knowledge there is very dangerous. Because in most cases, when you shake hands with somebody and say, nice doing business with them, if you did not do your homework, yes, it's nice doing business from their side, not from your side. Then I just want to throw in something here because it's not fitting nicely in some of the slides, but to find a way. Whenever you're dealing with investors, please ask this key question, fees. Because the other party you are dealing with gets remunerated based on the fees which they will charge for these transactions.
Okay.
And that's where they eat most of the money, because most of the time, the investment professionals base all the transaction on what fees they will get. That's how they will get remunerated. Whether the transaction is successful for you or not, they still get their fees. We are in the money markets, on the money markets, or when you are buying shares, guess what? The investment professional gets paid when you buy the share, the commission. When you sell the share, the commission piece. It's irrespective of whether you made money or you did not make money, he's getting paid. So he has taken all the risk and dumped it onto you. And once the transaction is done, he's been paid and he's gone. So when we'll look at this in detail, when you look at the boardroom, because for me, most people get into this field, play by games, by rules which they don't understand. Most cases, they get cleaned for ignorance. So yeah, that's the money market part, and the following part will be touching on Forex, but not today.
Wow. This is really waking up my mind, and I hope the audience is also listening very intently, because the financial systems that we're using in the world today are not designed to be favorable to you. And like Pinka said, it's a debt system. If you don't understand how it works, you will be taken to the cleaners. One of the conversations that we actually had was highlighting the fact that a professional investor or wealth manager will listen to you as you come to his office or as you have your meeting. And the first thing that he's looking for is to look at your level of understanding of the language and the area or the arena of money and investments. And unfortunately, because many people don't understand, they don't have the words. I mean, I love the fact that both yesterday's session and today's session were being introduced to words that are very, very important that you need to bring in that conversation to portray to the person you're dealing with that you actually understand the money market. If you're not asking questions like what are the fees, what's the interest rate, the time frames, etc. If you're not asking all of these questions, immediately they pick up the fact that you're green behind the ears, you're ignorant of what you're talking about, and they will take you to the cleaners. This system is not designed to be your uncle. It is designed to eat you and leave you struggling with no money and piles of debt. That is why later on, as we continue, I'll begin to bring in some very important principles on how to function in the Babylonian system using kingdom principles in order for the system to work. We see that with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. We see that with Israel in Egypt. We see that with the Jewish people right through history. What are the principles that will allow me to function within the financial sector and not be the victim, but become the victor? God said, I've given you the power to get wealth, that you may establish his covenant. He said that he promised in his word that we are the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, that we're the lender and not the borrower. All of these promises are speaking into the financial arena and the economic arena of our lives. But Pinkas, we are out of time. Once again, it's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. We are so grateful. We're looking forward to tomorrow when we look at some of the other aspects of how the capitalist system works and what we need to be cognizant of in order to protect ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us on Couch Time. It's been an honor once again having you. We are so grateful.
Thanks, Ted. Tomorrow, definitely, people should not miss the Forex part, because that's where they really, most of them get damaged. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. You heard the advert on the 3 books that are on sale and on special. The Masters of the Economy, How to Master Your Personal Financial Economy, and the Judeo-Abrahamic Wealth Factor, How to Create Wealth Using the Bible and Jewish Principles, Jewish wisdom on managing and creating and increasing your wealth. And the latest one, Birthing a Mega Economy, the rise of the African continent, how Africa needs to know that it is in a time when God wants us to walk in increase. Thank you so much for joining us on Couch Time with Dr. Titch and our special guest, Pinkas Thusanang Sebata, a wise man. You can get in touch with him and he'll give you wisdom, he'll give you knowledge, he'll give you further understanding. But if you have any questions, please do post them, send them to us, and we will address those questions in our sessions tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us on Couch Time. God bless you and have a great evening.